Greetings everyone, welcome to another episode of Mortal Medicine. My name is Kerem Bölek and today I will be talking about the second part of our depression and psilocybin series. If you haven't seen part 1, go check that out quickly. Today we will be looking at a paper from the New England Journal of Medicine. Stick to the end of the video for some healthy tips. Now in this study from the New England Journal of Medicine, they're looking at escitalopram versus psilocybin as a treatment for depression. Escitalopram is an SSRI, and like we've talked about in the last video, SSRIs are used because people who are depressed seem to have very low serotonin. So endogenous serotonin production for some reason has been reduced, and it makes sense to increase your serotonin in your brain via these SSRIs. In this study done by Carhart-Harris et al., they followed 59 adults with moderate to severe major depressive disorder, and they were divided into two groups. One group was given psilocybin with 25 milligrams 3 weeks apart, so 2 doses of psilocybin, and a placebo pill. The second group, they received escitalopram of 10 milligrams daily for 3 weeks, and then 20 milligrams daily for 3 weeks. During this, they also received a placebo of 1 milligram dose of psilocybin, which is not an effective dose. So 30 patients with psilocybin and 29 patients with escitalopram. The main outcome measure was the quick inventory of depressive symptomatology self-report, or for short, the QIDS SR16. This is an interesting choice because normally most papers that focus on depression, they take the Hamilton Depression Scale, but we'll get to that later. Now, after those 6 weeks, there was an interesting change observed. People in the escitalopram, they received a 6-point reduction in their QIDS scores, meaning they got 6 points less depressed, which is good. The psilocybin group got -8 points plus -1 as well. So the difference was 2 points. They tested this with some statistical tests and it was not significant, meaning that this could have been a random difference. So on paper, it seems like the SSRI and the psilocybin are pretty much the same in effectiveness. That's what the paper shows. At least if you look at the New England Journal of Medicine page and you read the abstract, they conclude that on the basis of the change of the QIDS SR16, this trial did not show a significant difference in antidepressant effects between psilocybin and escitalopram in a selected group of patients. So this is an interesting outcome. There seems to be no difference on a primary outcome measure when it comes to psilocybin measured with a normal SSRI. Consider, however, that I told you that the Hamilton Depression Scale is normally used to measure up how depressed someone is. And in normal trials, for example, I've done a review about depressive symptoms and different pharmacological interventions such as ketamine compared with SSRIs and compared with tricyclic antidepressants. Almost all the studies that I've read for that review measured the depressive symptoms in the Hamilton scale. So it's quite peculiar that they have chosen the quick inventory of depressive symptoms. But if you look at the secondary outcome measures, they actually did measure the Hamilton Depressive Scale in the supplementary files of this paper, which is interesting because when I look at the full text article on the New England Journal of Medicine, there is no such table shown. So this table that I'm showing you right now, this table is only found in the supplementary files. We see Hamilton D17. And there we can see a significant difference favoring psilocybin. And that's not the only thing. There are other depression inventory scales that are used to see how depressed someone is with self-reporting and whatnot. And those two also show a big favoring towards the psilocybin group. Interestingly, everything but the main outcome measure is in favor of our shroomy friends. Now, if you look at the other points, we have avoidance. Avoidance meaning neurotically not doing things that you know you should do, or being very scared of social interaction. So avoidance was significantly improved, so people were more open to experience when they used psilocybin. For psilocybin patients, anhedonia was significantly improved, so people had more fun doing the things that they normally did. And I know that from my experience, if you're tripping and you're doing something like dancing, it's a completely new experience. It's almost like you're dancing through the third and fourth dimension, which is a weird way of saying that you can really feel that you're living inside of your body. And there was not a thought in my mind that was thinking about not having fun. It was pure fun almost. Work and life functioning, flourishing, STAY, which is another way of inventorizing depressive symptoms, well-being, suicidality. Those are all in favor of psilocybin. And I remember when I was tripping that I felt the fullness of life, and I saw like a flock of Canadian geese flying over a troop of horses running over the beach while Mozart was playing in the background and was hitting this high crescendo. And there was not a thought of suicide or anxiety or not having fun or avoiding that experience in my mind. It was completely focused on the beauty that I was seeing right in front of me. And, I don't know if I could have that same experience if I just did something that increases my serotonin somewhat. So it's not necessarily about the amount of serotonin you receive, but it might just be the quality of activation of the neurons. In my first trip, I can confidently say that my well-being during the trip was significantly increased. Now, I didn't run any statistical tests on it, although in my experience it was one of the most beautiful things I have experienced in that time. Of course, that was like 4 years ago, so I might have been naive, but it's still very, very beautiful if I think back to it. The effectiveness is much better of psilocybin compared to the SSRIs, and this is only with 2 doses. Like in 3 weeks, they're just taking 2 doses. And the SSRI group has to take it every day, 10 milligrams every day, and then 3 weeks later, 20 milligrams every day. Which is, for one, very difficult to adhere to for some people. There are even some diabetics who don't even adhere to their medication because they don't feel like it. So what would a depressed person say? It's far, handier, it's more efficient for people to just take 1 dose and then be done with it. It's like, that's kind of like ideal medicine in a way. If you want to really cure something, you would much rather just do one thing and then cure the whole disease. That's why treating tumors with an operation is so, it feels so viscerally good to do that, to be able to do that, because you just take away what's bad and then, you're cured. So in this case, you take 2 doses of something which is so prevalent in nature, it literally grows in the ground, and you take it, and after a few weeks, you just feel much better compared to your baseline. So yeah, I've been praising psilocybin for a while now, but what about the adverse effects? Because every medicine has adverse effects. There was not much of a difference in adverse effects for the SSRI compared to the psilocybin, because most people were pretty much baseline fine, although there were some cases of people getting headaches, nausea, fatigue, and for example migraines, heart palpitations, and most of the time they were pretty much the same. They did not significantly differ between the SSRI and the psilocybin. The only difference spotted was a lower chance of a dry mouth and anxiety, but for some reason people who took psilocybin, they had a lower chance of anxiety. Also, in the SSRI group, 3 people reported to feel abnormal, while 0 people with the psychedelic group felt that way, which for me is like this beautiful irony, because in a way, tripping your balls off and feeling normal. I remember when in one of my trips feeling very abnormal when I was listening to Frank Zappa's song, it's called, I believe, Don't Eat the Yellow Snow. So maybe in research conditions they don't let you anywhere near that weird music so that you feel completely fine. So as we can see, these outcomes, especially secondary outcomes of flourishing, lessening of anxiety, lessening of anhedonia, the Hamilton Depression Scale, show a very, very favorable effect towards psilocybin. Now, when you read the study on the New England Journal of Medicine, as I'm doing right now, they seem to almost downplay the benefits of psilocybin. And their conclusion consists of them saying, right, there is not really a big difference between the treatments. As I say, on the basis of the change in depression scores on the QIDS-SR at week 6, this trial did not show a significant difference. On the basis of a score of a test, which is rarely used as a primary outcome measure, we conclude that there is not much difference. But if you dig deeper and you look in the appendix and the supplementary files, you can really see that psilocybin is a far superior substance compared to the SSRI. Secondary outcomes generally favored psilocybin over escitalopram. Well, not generally, all secondary outcomes favored psilocybin, But the analysis of these outcomes lacked correction for multiple comparisons. Well, that's fair, so a bigger trial could be conducted. As they say, larger and longer trials are required to compare psilocybin with established antidepressants. Now, this is important. They're saying established antidepressants because it's going to be very difficult to convince the whole medical community or especially psychiatric community of, hey guys, all the medicines that you've been prescribing are not working as well as this one. And we live in this world with evidence-based medicine, but most people, they just feel comfortable with doing what they've been doing and doing what they have been told. You don't want to take many risk as a doctor because you might get sued. So you play it safe and you look at the guidelines, and the guidelines say SSRIs. So you prescribe SSRIs and the pharmaceutical companies can sell them because people take them every day, some even for the rest of their lives. I can understand why the New England Journal of Medicine published something like this, which is a conservative view of something that could revolutionize mental health treatment. This paper, it does show great promise for psilocybin, although it's not something conclusive at all. We have to keep that in mind. Well, you could think that, wouldn't it be interesting to have something that is new in science and to tell people about it, like, hey, we found something new which is interesting and which could actually be better than the thing we've known before. Well, on paper, if science worked that way, that would be ideal. People would just, oh, new information, let's try that, let's see what happens, let's see if we can build something off of it. But we have to remember that the old knowledge has been used for decades. You have to realize that. So in these decades, a lot of people have built their careers on top of the knowledge that we now could see as wrong or as old. So let's say you have a psychiatrist who has been prescribing SSRIs for his whole career. He would not like to read research that says like, oh, what you've been doing is probably not the best thing. So most people who are practitioners, when they read something like this, they will protect their medication that they've been prescribing with pretty much their lives, because they have been putting their whole skin in the game with this treatment. And if there's some sort of researcher coming along and saying like, oh yeah, this thing is wrong, then the practitioner would not be as much inclined to change the ways if the research just says that they're flat out wrong. So that's a reason why you could take a conservative view and say like, oh, there's not much of a difference. So these practitioners could read the New England Journal of Medicine and be like, oh yeah, well, I have been doing this, but this might be a possible treatment, a different treatment for the same disease. So I can imagine that would be one of the reasons, because you would be far more inclined to change your ways if you're nudged subtly in that way, instead of the paper just saying SSRI is bad and psilocybin good. So larger and longer trials are required to compare psilocybin with established antidepressants. That's another clue on why they wouldn't go out and say psilocybin is the new way forward, because established SSRIs, established treatments, they're established for a reason. There's a lot of financial interest and a lot of financial influence coming from pharmaceutical companies that, you know, make bank selling these SSRIs, like bank. Same thing with this pharmaceutical company selling opioids. You know, it's a product that sells itself. If you don't use your antidepressants, you will feel horrible, so you'll just buy them every time and take them every day. Now, if you don't take your opioids, which one of the companies, they were selling opioids and they were actually marketing them as being non-addictive. This was also done with the help of McKinsey, which is this huge corporation that gives advice. It's a consulting corporation which helps you with increasing profits. That's all they do. They help you to increase profits. And if you're a pharmaceutical company selling opioids, then increasing profits is, you know, just getting it out there, getting your product on the market. And that's why they gave doctors financial incentives to give people OxyContin or other opioids, synthetic opioids. And what we saw was the American opioid crisis. Pharmaceutical companies are not ethically higher or better than exploiting people for profit. So it could also be that SSRIs are, you know, a big money machine for some of these companies, and then for the New England Journal of Medicine to come out and say your SSRIs are not working as well, that could be a huge blow. And because the pharmaceutical companies and like journals are kind of intertwined with financial interests or people who work over there and over there, then it would be better for them if they had a more conservative view on something that is being sold by pharmaceutical companies. Actually, one of the researchers in this paper that has written this paper gave a talk on for Takeda pharmaceutical company. It's a company somewhere in America, I believe, and they also produce SSRIs. So, you know, that could be a reason. It's not a smoking gun, but it shows you that there are influences from pharmaceutical companies and researchers and papers and journals that play a big role in how you present your research. Because if this would have been, let's say, a research paper that is not biased by pharmaceutical companies, well, you would probably see a conclusion which is more akin to psilocybin shows less adverse effects on these sides, and they show a favoring of the secondary outcome measures. They would far more highlight those in favor of psilocybin, but now what they're now doing is there are a lot of, you know, outcomes in favor of psilocybin, but they don't highlight it, especially not in the full paper. So if you read the paper on the New England Journal of Medicine website, there's no talk of the secondary outcome measures, almost zero to none. But if you go into the supplementary files, there you can actually find it, and there you find the real, you know, the real meat of the research. So it could have been a reason why they also chose the QIDS scale instead of the Hamilton scale, because, you know, the QIDS was the only one that did not show up significantly different, but the QIDS scale is a less so accurate because it's a quick one designed to do it quickly. Now, if you just read the paper, you won't find the info I just told you about the secondary outcome measures. You really have to get into the appendix, which is quite well hidden. And, you know, just decide for yourself. Is this a paper that is non-biasedly presented to you, or is it a paper that has some different influences, maybe pharmaceutical, maybe political, behind it, that really keep it from bursting the floodgates open for new psychiatrists to really help people in a different way? Just remember that there are a lot of forces at play that decide which research sees the light of day and what research is not deemed as important. And also the way of presenting your research is very much decided by, you know, scientific politics. Most researchers are very, very good politicians because they know how to get past, you know, the reviewers of a journal. So it would be very logical and very rational for these writers to downplay their results as well, so that they can actually get published in a New England Journal of Medicine. Knowledge in itself, especially scientific knowledge, is not in a vacuum. It is embodied knowledge of people who are working with it, and some people have been working with knowledge for their whole lives, and if you tell them that their knowledge is wrong or you know, not as good as something new, then they will fight it with their whole career, with their whole being behind it, because you're literally attacking the way they live, who they are, and what they do as a job. So my number one tip for helping with depressive symptoms is move. We sit at the desk every damn day, and our ancestors did not do that. Our ancestors moved around and worked with their bodies, and you don't see a lot of depressed people in the 1920s. Well, in the 30s you do see them, because then you had the Great Depression, but at least people moved. And now we don't really move anymore as much. So, try to dance at least once a day. Put on your favorite music and dance in your room like the stupid monkey we all are. Or take a walk outside and look at a tree and see how beautiful they actually are. And if you're feeling particularly open and bold, try to hug one, for example. It's sure to increase your well-being. Also, eat whole foods. Your diet is what makes your body work. And if you eat trash food, then you're gonna have a trash life. Garbage in, garbage out. Let's see this as a black box. And if you put trash in a black box, you'll get trash out. So, don't eat a lot of sugar. That's for one. Don't eat a lot of junk food. We know it's bad for us, but we keep doing it because it tastes good, I know. But, figure out what is close to nature and put it in your mouth like the caveman we are. To decrease depressive symptoms, it's just a very simple trick. You just wake up in the morning and write down 3 things you're thankful of. Just 3 things. They don't have to be big, they can be just small. Being thankful for being able to go outside safely without there being a war. Or thankful for having 10 fingers, which is more than average. Or being thankful for having a loving family, or friends, or health at least. And if you think about what you're thankful about, then your day will look a bit more bright. And if you keep practicing this for a while, eventually you'll get better at being thankful, and you'll be a better person in the way of how you construct your perspective. Try it out for a week and you'll see immediate results. Now, the secret to being healthy is quite boring. The reality is you have to really routinely make choices that are healthy. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Take good care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.